Yo, check what's coming up next. The Predator and Prey podcast. The podcast that addresses mental health and social injustice issues of today. Brian Glaze Gibbs, the ex-kingpin drug lord and predator, teams up with the Prey, Dr. Elisa, a mental health practitioner.
I think that we have to pick and choose when we are representing the public.
Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Right now is for the Predator and the Prey podcast. I got the lovely Dr. Lisa World, and not only that, we got the special guest, and to me, I had the privilege of having a heart-to-heart conversation with this man. This man had me in tears, because once again, the message is so powerful. Without no further ado, Captain Dennis Muhammad. Welcome, my brother.
Peace. Honored to be on.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said right now, Captain Dennis, it's like right now to me, and that's what we was talking about earlier. And even with Dr. Elisa, I grew up with her. And to me, when she spoke,
not really. I mean, you're way older than me. I mean, you make it seem like we were playing like hopscotch together or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
we were playing house or something.
Well, okay. I'm 91 and a half. I'm 91 and a half, and okay. Well, she grew up in the same environment. She grew up in the same neighborhood. So she's way younger than me. I'm 91 and a half, and she's 30. Okay. Hey, but anyway, right now is how great minds, like automatically right now, based upon what we've been doing. Automatically, like she just felt and knew that right now the type of value that you can bring to this podcast would be unbelievable. And even from talking to you earlier, I have to agree, because once again, your experience and your insight, especially with all the situation and things that's going on in our community today, is right now is that's what you definitely have, like you say, the right solution.
Right.
I'm not going to say I have the right solution, but I most certainly have part of the solution.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And we can accept that. I can accept that or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But you know what? For people that don't know who you are, you know what? Let people know who is Captain Dennis Muhammad.
Well, thank you so much for giving me this great opportunity to be on this great show. Whether your reputation precedes you, I did a little background. I needed to know a little something who I'm coming on with. I just hope I wasn't coming on no show with somebody that would not compliment the work that we have been doing. But you should compliment the work that we're doing, my brother. Thank you for this great honor. And Dr. Lee, she's my niece. I have been protecting this girl for a long time. I always had to keep my shotgun with me, but it seemed like she got away from me recently. So I don't know if I got to get my shotgun back out or put it back in. But she has definitely been a member of the Nation of Islam under our great watchful eye. I promised her mother I'd look after her. I haven't talked to her in a while. I've been visiting her on social media. And as far as I see on social media, we're glad to bring her back home. Better than that, let me say this. My name is, they call me Captain Dennis Muhammad. I have been a member of the Nation of Islam for 51 years. I am also a founder of a 2-3 initiative. One of the initiatives is the Peacekeeper Global Initiative. Y'all may have heard of the Peacekeepers. We have 34 chapters in the country. We have 3 chapters outside the country. We have a chapter in Tobago, a chapter in Trinidad, and we also have a chapter in London, England. I also have been a personal security, many know me, personal security for the Honorable Minister Farrakhan for over 45 years. I have also been the captain of the East Coast in New York City. I was based in New York City. I had 2 beautiful restaurants that I owned with 2 partners. Everybody knew those restaurants. It was called Number 7 Steak and Take. One was in the Sugar Hill area on 45th in St. Nick, and the other was on Lenox Avenue. So we have been doing this work for a while. We've been about stop the gun violence. We also train law enforcement. I've been training law enforcement for 35 years. Trained over about 15 police departments around the country. Basically, going into departments and teaching them what we call sensitivity training, cultural diversity training, racial profile training, and de-escalation training. And the newest training we're giving law enforcement is called emotional survival tactical communication training. We're also very happy to please to say that being a member of the Nation of Islam for 51 years, we have always been about the resurrection and helping our people to come to a better way of life. So I've been boots on the ground, and I'm very happy to be on this platform to get into some serious dialogue about some of the issues that is facing the Black community today.
Hey, powerful, powerful resume. Like, even like I tell you right now, I love it because once again, it's like right now is when you talking about the peacekeepers, and not only that, being part of, the Nation of Islam. When you told me right now you've been part of that for 51 years. That's truly a blessing because once again, like to me, for everything that I know about, the Nation of Islam, it's like right now you love it because once again, how many lives they have touched, how many lives they have saved, how many lives they have changed. And that's what this is all about, getting people to understand how do we come together as one. There's only one God. And how do we come together as one to make sure right now is we are part of the solution to the epidemic, the problem, the mental health illness, the gun violence, the violence, period. It's like right now is like, how do we join forces as one?
Well, go ahead, Lee. Go ahead, Doctor. Let's see if you can say
Yeah,
something. Go ahead, Lee.
absolutely. So yes, I do know Captain Dennis for a very long time, and he's been protecting me and looking after me for a very long time. And so I've been blessed to have again very, I would say, upstanding, if you will, brothers who have always been there for me. And as far as I'm concerned, like having Black men in your life that are leaders, that can give you guidance, offer, advice. I think that's extremely important for any woman, young woman. And I think that's also something that is missing in our community today for a variety of reasons. And so we'll get into that. But yes, he is absolutely someone that I turn to for guidance all the time. I also wanted to point out that I think because we're talking about violence, we're talking about youth, we're talking about the Black community, we'll be speaking about, perhaps, definitely solutions. I think it's important for us to define a couple of things before we get started. And that is the one thing that I'm thinking about is that I know we're going to speak to the trauma that's in our communities and that many of our young people have experienced. We've all experienced it. And I think it would be helpful for us to define it. So for this conversation, trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, like an accident, a natural disaster, similar to COVID, right? And it usually you have a physical response basically after the event. There's a shock or denial. And for longer term issues, there's more reactions, which include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and even physical symptoms. So I, I think a lot of times when we think of trauma, we think about something that happened in the immediate. And so within a couple of weeks, then we're thinking about it and we're unable to maybe sleep, or we have eating issues, or, we have some kind of other emotional response to it. But it can also be something that happened a very long time ago that we haven't really fully processed. And could that be passed down through generations? There's some scholars who suggest that, there is something called post-traumatic slave disorder. And what does that look like for us? That's a trauma that our community has gone through, our people have experienced, and I don't think we have necessarily processed that fully. You and I spoke, I think the three of us spoke earlier around DNA. Can some of these traumatic feelings be passed down through generations? So I think we should certainly get into the conversation and, start to really keep it real, for lack of a better term.
So go ahead, you go first. Do you want to start? Go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, well, we're talking about violence, right? There's so many stories out here. A couple of weeks ago, Glaze and I covered this story about a young man who murdered 3 of his children and himself. So it was a murder-suicide. There was another situation recently where a gentleman went into McDonald's because his mom complained about cold French fries and murdered the McDonald's worker. There was a recent situation in North Carolina where a gentleman walked up to a young lady while she was at the ATM machine and murdered her in an armed robbery. And this is going on. All the rappers who have been killed over the last, few years. It's ongoing. It's on and on and on, and there seems to be no real solutions or answers to how do we fix this problem. And it is truly a problem. It is, to me, a national health crisis, the amount of young people who are being murdered. And I think that we need to really have candid conversation about how can we address this issue.
Okay, I think that they had also, about several years ago, seemed to attach mental health disease to violence. They are saying they're pretty much one and the same. That's very debatable, that violence is a mental health disease. I do believe there are some serious contributing factors that mental health does lend to it. Mental health is now been on the blackboard recently for the last year or maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
We're now beginning to look at all of the facilities that used to help mental health patients were closed.
Right.
And mental health patients were allowed to walk the street with no help. Many of your shelters have not only people who have needed shelters, but a lot of mental health patients are also in shelters. We have a lot of mental health patients walking the streets. And there's mental health patients that you know, and there's mental health patients that don't show they are mentally healthy. They have mental health issues. One of the things that we're facing, Dr. Lees, is a time that we never seen before in our lifetime. Because I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, ignore that we're living in a time that I believe is truly the judgment of God. Well, how does that help me? Because some things that you cannot explain, you can only attribute to something spiritual. When we go to look at the time of Moses, look at what's going on in America, from the weather, from COVID, now the monkeypox, to everything from famine to a food shortage. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
To a food shortage. Could this be the judgment of God? How could I even think about a person that would go to McDonald's, Dr. Elise, not because he was given cold French fries, but because his mama was given cold French fries? And we hear these crazy stories. Did you know when I started the Peacekeepers, Dr. Brother Glaze, I was invited to New Orleans. This was about maybe 12 years ago. And when I was going to give a speech, the day before I arrived, a black man who did not want to pay child support to the child's mother, he took the 2-year-old child, his son, and he slit that boy's throat with a box knife. It was all on the news in New Orleans. And so I was going in there to give a speech. But that incident, that situation sent me into deep depression. To know that a man would take his 2-year-old son and take a box cutter and slit his throat because he did not want to pay that boy's mother child support. I said then, What have we become? And it was then that I started the New Orleans chapter of the Peacekeeper. These are the kind of things we're facing, Dr. Elise. Are we facing trauma? Dr. Wesley contribute. Listen, Dr. Wesley contribute much of the abnormal behavior. Listen, to the influx of tainted marijuana that is coming into the Black community. The same marijuana that they giving at the marijuana dispensaries is not the same marijuana you get out the hood. And with that marijuana that is high in THC, with that kind of drugs followed with the drug Molly, all of these fentanyl, all of these drugs that's flooded the Black community, I do believe that, as Dr. Wesley said, some of the marijuana is a gender bender. I do believe that some of the drugs contribute to the mental health disease that's plaguing our community and the trauma. So I think there's a lot of issues that is addressing why we doing the things we doing, but we have to consider, myself, the signs of the time. Are we under divine judgment? Is this, as most Christians may say, the end of the world? Is it that we're living in a time where Black people, African Americans particularly, are being targeted for self-destruction? Could it be a hidden hand that has invested interest to see us fill the penitentiaries? Could it be there's those who have an invested interest to continue to see us never rise because the rise of the Black man means the fall of the white man? Could it be that there's a fear of the white racists who's losing what they call white privilege to think that one day we're rising? They're looking at the Black woman rising. There's a fear. All these can be contributing factors that lend into the madness, along with the trap music, along with that filthy, the rap music. I don't know if it's anywhere near the music when it first started back in the day when rap was conscious, contribute to this kind of demoralization of women, the degrading of our males. And then we're living in a society again where these children, Dr. Elise, are being raised by TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. These are the new parents. I said enough. Hey, Dr. Glaze, I know I talk a lot, so I try to cut it, my brother. I really am.
But you know what? Like I say right now is this, man. Like I told you before, you're on the platform, so I want to hear what you got to say. We want to hear. The platform want to hear. The audience want to hear. This is stuff that we need to hear because once again, like if you sit back and you think about it right now, like I've been saying it lately. You know, I came up in an environment where, as far as we used to go to assembly, you know, once a week or once a month, and then in the school system, we used to be talking about we got the whole world in our hand. Now that have changed so much because we got the whole world at our fingertip. And the difference is right now is even when you start talking about when Pharaoh say, let my people go, when Moses went to him and say, Pharaoh, let my people go, what I'm saying is right now is guess what? Here it is. We got a different Pharaoh. Is social media is the new Pharaoh? And they are completely in control of the way we think, the way we believe, the way we are functioning now. And a lot of stuff have to do with, like I say right now, our genetics. Whereas when you sit back and you look at it, what's all this gun violence? What's all this self-hate? Something that you said that was very, very powerful earlier. Right now is, you know what? Saving. Sometimes you got to analyze and see who and what you can save. Because once again, what the sense you're wasting, you know what I'm saying, energy, time, manpower to try to save something, someone, or a community that don't want to be saved. What do you have to say about that, Doctor?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's so much to unpack here. Thank you so much, Captain Dennis. That was really well said. I think there's been a decline of people even attending faith-based institutions like all across the world. Like people aren't even that vested in having like a spiritual kind of community that they belong to where there's a set of rules and values that you follow, morals. And so why that there's another question, why are we no longer really sort of grounded in that institution of faith? speaking to the drugs that are in our communities, and why are people self-medicating? What is it that they're trying to mask? What kind of pain are they trying to cover up? What is it that they're trying to escape from? Those things are still unanswered. What role do we as parents play in the home, in the family, in the community, to sort of ensure that our children have a sense of hope, that we can be a part of the healing process for them? There's so many aspects of this that we need to unpack, and I'm just here for it. And I hope that the viewers chime in as we begin to discuss solutions. One of the things that is also very concerning is that we no longer take any sort of consideration or pride in how we mate. There's no, I mean, it's like based on who has what, or who doesn't have this, or there's some kind of facial. Let's keep it real. People are with what kind of facial characteristics you have, or hair, like it's all sort of different reasons, without like thinking about whether someone is mentally healthy, whether someone is emotionally stable, whether someone is thinking scholastically and want to move through life in some kind of structured way. These are the things that aren't necessarily things that we think about when we're thinking about who we mate with. So why have we gotten to away from like our families chiming in on the people who we bring into our homes? Like no one says like, I don't think this person is really good for you, or maybe there's no elders anymore. COVID wiped out so many elderly people. It's unbelievable. So there's no one in the community that holds like that like historical knowledge and information and experience that we can go to and say, can you help me understand this? Or how did you guys do that before? I mean, I always say my grandparents had 10 children, right? My grandfather was an immigrant, right? He came over here. He actually raised 10 children. They were married for 60 years. You know what I mean? They had all their children between 15 and 24. That's how old they were. So, like, to say that we are unable to take care of our children, none of them were on drugs. All of them owned homes. All of them were successful. My grandfather, was an assistant minister in the Nation of Islam. That people have figured out how to raise children without having lots of money. They weren't rich people, but they figured out how to do it and raise a healthy community of children. They had a community of children, right? 10 children. So he figured that out. What was it that he was up against? Jim Crow, right? In the 50s. He was up against all of the same racism, discrimination, all of the things that we are dealing with today. You speak to some young people, they'll say, well, I've never experienced racism. The young people today that, they don't really have that. I've heard Lil Wayne say, I don't know what racism is.
Right now is okay. Like Lil Wayne, something that he said he never experienced racism. Because
Right.
again, sometime once you reach a certain level, or even right now, was guess what? Sometime he was blind that when he seen it, he didn't know what it was. Okay? Because once again, it was happening, it was there. Or sometime once you reach a certain status as far as dollar and cents, then guess what? It's just different. People is not judging you because of your color of your skin. They judging you based upon your bank account. Right now, where it's like, beforehand, what he was saying, when he's going to the bank, they looking at him and their nose turn up. Now they see him coming in right now is because he's been counting dirty money since 12:30. So now oh man, you're a millionaire. So all that stuff changed because once again, you know what? I'm gonna show you another perfect example. It was a perfect example that I was just looking at just not too long ago, and it was an old situation about Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley. You know what I'm saying? They was up on Oprah. I'm trying to remove that piece. It was an old, like them saying. And right now, he said everybody think Michael Jordan is handsome. Say Michael Jordan is not handsome. That $300 to $400 million is what make Michael Jordan handsome. So that's the same thing when people looking at people are looking at a situation and trying to understand. Right now, it was like Lil Wayne said he never experienced. When you're making so much money, are you into the public eye? You become acceptable. So you're not that same person that what I'm saying. Like people see you. They don't see race. You know what they see? They see money.
Well, Bill Cosby didn't feel that way.
Think about it. And I'm speaking for me. What I'm saying, I never experienced racism as when when you grew up in New York, you grew up in the big melting pot. So guess what? You grow up with every nationality. So
Right.
guess what? People was people. It wasn't until I was like probably like them saying what 6 or 7 years old and went down to South Carolina for the first time that you actually seen it, witnessed it firsthand. But once again, are you young, old enough to understand, to comprehend what it was? So that's why I say it's like it's a lot of different things that happened or took place, but you got to try to identify it for what it is. Because don't get me wrong, sometimes you just take a rude or disrespectful person as being an evil person, not knowing he's that way because I hate black folks, or I hate white folks, or I hate Hispanic folks. So we got to be able to go back to the basic and understand from an educational standpoint. And that's the difference. What I'm saying is right now is like our society is so screwed up that we need to go back to the basic, back to life, back to reality.
We have lost our moral compass. When I grew up, you grew up in a time where everybody belonged to some organization. You just did not belong. You had to belong. You belong to something. Either you belong to the church, you belong to join the nation, you was with the Panther Party, you was in NAACP, you was a SNCC, you was in poor. You know, you was either part of the Masons, the Elks. You belong to something. You did not just come up without being a part of the struggle. The sad part about the civil rights era, as we would talk about it, we always want to go back to the root. There's a saying that goes like this: those who fail to change history are condemned to repeat it. When you hear people say we repeat in the 60s, that's not good. That's not good. That means we fail to have changed history. And if we did not change history, are we now repeating the history that we did not change or we thought we changed? One of the things, as we talk about on this show, I read some of the comments. I read, they said, is there some things that just can't be explained? You doggone skip it. There are some things we just ain't gonna be able to find an explanation for it. That's the truth. To think that we scholars on this podcast and we gonna come up with a solution, you are gravely mistaken. I'm sorry. There's going to be a lot of questions. More questions going to come up as we begin to come up with answers. Every time we come up with an answer, there's going to be 10 more questions. So don't think that we're going to be able to solve any of the great problems that is facing us as a people. But however, family, we will begin to add certain pieces that has been missing to that puzzle that you would probably say, that's what I've been missing. I appreciate what brother said. I appreciate what Clay said. I appreciate what Dr. Elise said. Oh, there's that missing piece. But to think we got the whole piece to the puzzle, come on, family. We're going to have a nice time. And there's some things we're going to say that you may not agree with. But that's okay. As long as we don't become disagreeable. Learn to disagree, but let's not become disagreeable. And you know what, family? Let's try to put our emotions to the side. One of the most important things, Brother Glaze, is that when I started the Peacekeepers, I did not want religion become the reason we unite. I did not want politics become the reason we unite. I did not even want race become the reason we unite. Because every one of those things I mentioned are very controversial. And anytime you have something that's controversial, you're going to have conflict. And I don't want conflict. I want peace. Peace, as Dr. Elise told me one time, peace is the absence of conflict, right? So we want peace. If we want peace, you can't have peace and have conflict. They're contrary to each other. So if we're going to talk about unity, and we're going to talk about peace, then we're going to have to put aside the very things that have created confusion, created conflict. And there's nothing that creates more conflict than religion, politics, race, one's social status, and guess what? Even sports. We would be at odds with each other if we start. So all of these factors create us to not to be able to sit down and find a common denominator. But look what Minister Farrakhan said one time. He used a mathematical equation that we all are familiar with. He said, you take a fraction and you reduce it down to its lowest term. Then you find the least common denominator. I wouldn't know where the minister was going with this when he said it. What he said was, we have been a people and we have been reduced down to our fragmented, broken up term. You can't find us more divided than we ever been divided. But now, let us find the least common denominator. And you know what the least common denominator is? Peace. Poor people want peace. Yep. Rich people want peace. Black people want peace. White people want peace. Gay people want peace. Straight people want peace. Christians want peace. Muslims want peace. Crips want peace. Blood want peace. Everybody wants peace. It is the common denominator. So why don't we unite around peace? And if we want peace, then we have to put aside those things that are controversial. And you know controversy brings conflict, and conflict is the absence of peace.
Okay. Well, that leads me right into this question, because that is the common denominator. Everyone wants peace. You want peace in your home. You want peace in your family. You want peace in your community. You want peace at work. Like, you want peace in your business. You want peace everywhere. For some reason, our communities aren't as peaceful as we know they can be. We've seen peaceful communities. We know what a peaceful community looks like. So this is the question. What do you believe is the reason for the steady increase in the absence of peace? The steady increase in violence across all major cities. So violence is the absence of peace.
That's what it is. Well, I'm gonna go ahead, Glazer. You go ahead like you just gonna moderate, brother.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
But let me say this. When you have conflict within yourself, when you don't know who you are as it relates to not only your role as a human being, but when you don't know who you are as it relates to your culture, you're dealing with a people that over 450 years, going on 500 years, night and day, we have been under some of the most horrific conditions and treatment that you can impose on any human being. Some may argue, Dr. Leese, 150 years of us being brought over here in America. Now, with all of that being on us as a people, some of us don't even know that we are victims of trauma. Some of us don't even believe that we are displaying behavior only traumatized people can display. And if you point it out to them, they would swear on the back of a book of Bibles that I'm not traumatized. So we have a lot of issues that has to be addressed. For example, let me give you a good example. I remember that when I did my barbershop talks, I did not want the young people, they're not in the church no more. You know that. You said that, Dr. Lee. They're not in the mosque no more. I got to tell you, we ain't got them in the mosque either, Brother Glaze. Where are they at? I found out that you will find our young people in the barbershop. The barbershop has become the new church. The barber, God bless the barber. He's not only your new minister, he's your priest, he's your counselor, he's your mentor, he's your uncle, he's your grandfather, he's your coach. I don't know what it is, but I know, Brother Blaze, you probably ain't had your hair cut in some years, but I'm sure you go and get your face trimmed and all that.
Man, I do it myself.
You just see, a barber don't like you because you ain't giving nobody no money. You self-sufficient. Okay, I can understand that. But you can see, I still go to the barber. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, when I go to the, hey, look here. As long as I got it, I'm gonna keep it. I'm telling you the God's truth. I'm scared to even get it low unless it keeps going low and I lose it. So I keep it high. But nevertheless, it's something that when you sit in the barber chair, Dr. Niece, I don't know what it is about the barber that we get in the chair, we want to confess. We tell stuff to the barber, we don't tell nobody. For some reason, he become the priest. Well, I cheated on my wife today, the barber said. Well, why did you cheat on your wife, my friend? Well, the beat cheated on me. We have a tendency to feel comfortable as men. Do you know, Brother Glaze, that the barbershop is the last stronghold of masculinity? It's the only place where bravado can sway, where we can go in there as men and talk some manly things. It's the only place where you can discuss every issue. And if you're strong enough to defend it, you better be ready because they're going to come after you in the barbershop. So when I went in the barbershop, I seen the youngins. And so I asked these young men in the barbershop, I asked them 3 questions. The 3 questions I asked them, Doc, was, what do you think is the reason that there's an increase of violence and killings among youth today? That's question number 1. And question number 2, what do you think is the number 1 reason there is an increase of police officers shooting down in our community unarmed black men? What do you think? Why there's an increase in that? And the 3rd thing, do the black dollar matter? What is it why we don't spend money among our own? And do we have the power to keep the dollar among ourselves and beat ourselves and build ourselves economic power? Those are the 3 questions I put on the floor in the barbershop. And let me tell you, my God, the answers. I know we know the solution to our problem because many of the solution of the problem was answered in that barbershop. Let me give you one good example. There was a 10-year-old kid getting his hair cut. I wanted to know from that 10-year-old, why do you think young men are shooting and killing each other?
Say that again.
When I asked him, what is the reason you think young men your age are out there shooting and killing each other? I asked this 10-year-old boy. He had his mother with him, right? So he looked at his mother. And as he looked at his mother, she said, go ahead, you can answer. And the young man said, the reason why these young men out there killing each other because they don't have a father in their life. And when he said that, he looked at his mother. I knew what he was saying. He was telling his mama that. Go ahead.
But look at that right there. And see, a lot of times people do not understand as far as statistic. Whereas, like, when you have both parents, the mother and the father, how successful that child can be. Because not only that, you got partnership. So what if the mother don't see, the father will see, or vice versa. It's teamwork. So what I'm listening to that, and sometimes people do not understand that came from a baby. That came from a baby. I remember I was doing a speaking engagement in Brooklyn some years ago. And right now, doing that, I opened up to the floor. And I can remember this young kid, a baby, he asked me this question. He said, hey, have your parents, your guardians ever told you not to do something, you did it anyway? And I'm saying, Doc, I'm saying, Captain, as he's saying that, it's like, whoa, like revelation. So to me, I say, listen, young man, the answer to that question, my parents, my guardians tell us plenty of things not to do, and I disobey them. And what struck in my head right then is this: in Bedford-Stuyvesant, that church that day was F, I, and so many others can't follow rules and regulation in your own household. How are you going to go out there and follow, you know what I'm saying, state, city, federal, local rules and regulation? We already set up to fail. Wow.
Wow. That's awesome there. And you know what? To add to your point, just to add to your point, when that mother, he was saying to his mother, "You're keeping my father out of my life."
Wow.
See, that's what I picked up in it, because every young man, no matter what a mother thinks, to a child, listen, there's no such thing as a no good daddy, not to a child, to a mother. So the next question was asked was while the mother was sitting there, I asked the women, there was two women, one was a lady, she was braiding hair. I says, can a woman raise a child? And I asked her, do a woman needs a man in her life in order to raise a child? And of course, a lot of the brothers in the barbershop thought the women were going to say no, because there's a mindset that some women think they don't need a man. All right? There's a mindset out there. But these particular women said, we need a man in order to raise him as a young man. And they see those two women. And then I had the lady to elaborate on it. And she said these words. She said, I could teach my daughter how to clean, how to sew, how to do hair, but I can't teach my young man how to be a man. That's going to have to take a man to do. I could do my best, but I can't teach him how to be a man. Man, to hear that come out of a woman's mouth, it's absolutely true. Our women, I want to say this to every single mother that's under the sound of this voice. I salute you. I think you single mothers have did a remarkable job in raising these young men absent of a male figure in their life. You did a remarkable job. But we're living at a time now where we have to do better. Because if you look at the young men today, and you can say this, Glaze, I can say this. These young men are showing a lot. We have to have mentors. We have to have uncles. We have to have grandfathers. We got to step in and fill that void, so that young man, at a time that he's going through his puberty stage, can be guided to understand what to do with that aggression that he's coming into. Because remember now, there was upon a time me and you didn't have hair in certain places. And then, believe it or not, there was once upon a time we didn't even want to play with girls. Not no more. But as puberty kicked in, as your nature kicked in, now girls become attractive. I remember being a little kid and my sister used to bring up, oh, y'all go over there. Y'all girls play over there. Because I had not grown into my puberty yet. But as soon as I started growing into hair in certain places, and all of a sudden, man, I begin that testosterone been taking place in me. Now that I used to reject, now I'm attracted to. Hey, why don't you bring your friends on over today? See? But that's nature. But if you ain't got a man to guide these budding hormones, do you remember girls used to be tomboys, Dr. Lee? They look that don't mean
You raised so many important points, but one thing is it just the man in the home? But what about the men in the community? What role do they play? Are they also sort of by default role models for young men? So you have kids, that young children in their teens, right? They're looking up to the brothers in their 20s. Our communities where young people will begin to respect Black men again.
Well, me and Brother Glaze and yourself, we had I wish that would have been the podcast, because I probably couldn't repeat half of what we said, but we was really, really vibrant, strong, right? one of the things I want to revisit in that conversation, and that is we have to face reality.
Mm.
We can no longer be in denial that we got issues. I said to brother, one of the things that stop us as men to fulfill our responsibility to make our community a decent and safe place to live, one of the handicaps or one of the blocks is ego.
Mm.
Ego. We men have straight egos. It is, but that's okay because it's the nature of the man to be in charge. God made it that way. But the sad part is that we lack the knowledge of ourselves, so we mask our insecurities with our overreacting or over egos or our self-aggrandizement. We mask it with trying to always act like we know when we really don't know. And we have a hard time giving each other credit.
Mm.
So it's me and brother, I love what he said to me today. I have mad love for him. I just met him and I love the man already. You know why? Because the brother don't have an ego. You know why? The brother's not insecure with himself. You know why? He's able to recognize the value of another man.
Mm.
Do you know how important that is?
Yep.
Because if you don't recognize my value, then I will make importance of myself. I will make myself important. And when I do that, then everything would be I. I must die in order that we may live. That's the first step. If we're going to solve this problem, Dr. Lee, that's why Malcolm used to say he loved to be around women. Because women are not threatening to your position or post. Women are not threatening. But if you bring men around you, they may become threatening. You know why? Because they may want your position. They may want the women you got. They may want what you have. They may see this is all the stuff we got to deal with. But as soon as we come into contact with moral men like Brother Glaze, with moral men who are convicted to righteous conduct, righteous behavior, I can live with my brother. I can live in a community with my brother. I won't have no difficulty. There will not be no confusion between me and brother. You know why? Because we come from the same ilk. You know why? We have the same invested interests. He want peace. I want peace. He want to live in an environment where his children will grow up absent of molestation. He want to live in an environment where his children grow up absent of drugs. He want to live in an environment where his children grow up absent of violence. I want the same thing. And if he want that, you want that, and I want that. When all three of us get together and buy this block right here, and we call this block Peacekeeper Safe Block, and we tell everybody, listen, you want to sell drugs, you better go across the street. Don't bring it over here. You want to sell guns, you better go across the street. And then that little block become the doggone corner. That corner become the hood. That hood become the whole side of town. We can do it.
Yeah.
But you can't bring everybody into that cycle. Everybody is not willing to follow the laws, the rules, the regulations by which that community has to be governed by. And you want to live in a society of peace. Are you willing to put yourself under the type of law that would require that kind of peace? Even if we say, well, I'm sorry, one of the things to live over here, you can't be involved with drugs. You can't carry no weapons. This is a weapon free. Oh, wait a minute. What you talking about? No, nigga, I gotta have one. Go on, man. I'm sorry. We have no weapons over here. If you can't live by that law, fine. I'm sorry. We don't have alcohol stores. We don't sell liquor over here. If you want to get liquor, you don't go in the community and do that. We just don't do it here. We have to establish Those type of things that would guarantee morality, not because of your personal likes. Is it morally right? If it's morally right, then we're on our way to do what the Bible said, the kingdom of God on earth like it is in heaven. I strongly believe you can have heaven right here on earth. And I also know that we have experienced that you can have hell right here on earth. We choose heaven. I choose heaven over here.
And with that, Captain, like, Muhammad, and I look at and I'm listening to, and I love the words that are coming out your mouth. I love the passion. I love right now what you have been doing for all these many years. I'm just sorry that I'm just getting up on you now. It's like it's like right now, like, hold on, wait a minute here, But when you sit back and you look at it in today's society, even like you say in that barbershop conversation, whereas like with that 10-year-old boy, you know what I'm saying? Even right now, is hypothetically, if we was able to go back to that barber shop and we was able to talk to that same 10-year-old boy and ask him a different question, like why? Why all the gun violence in the school? Why these other kids thinking about they gotta bring in their backpack, weapons like a mass destruction, these handguns, these 9mm. Like, what do you think that 10-year-old would say? Why?
That's a good one. And just to add, listen, the beautiful thing about when we talk about the gun thing, when you go to hear them talking about coming up with new gun laws, they ain't got a dog in that fight. When you hear them talking about we got to ban assault weapons, we don't have a dog in that fight because the weapon of choice in the black community is the handgun. Mm. It's not the assault weapon. You don't see no brother walking down with an AK-47, an MR-1512, whatever it is. You hear me? You see us with the hand. That's our weapon of choice. But wait a minute. We need to have background checks. But listen, half the brothers in the hood, they got felonies, so they couldn't pass a background check. So how do they get a gun? Can they get it legally? No. Our community is not flooded with legal guns. Our community is flooded with illegal guns. So all of that NRA, all of that, it got nothing to do with us. We want to know, how do you get rid of illegal guns in the hood? And let me tell you something. I told you I did an active shooter training a couple of days ago. And let me tell you, this is kind of funny. But an active shooter will most likely not take place in the hood. Now, it can, because if an active shooter go into any black school in the hood in New York, he ain't got to worry about the police coming to get him. Them young boys gonna pull out their book bag. They're gonna shoot at the active shooter, have him running out the building. We have in the black community metal detectors way before they start talking about putting them in the schools now. Why in New York? Was we having metal detectors to stop guns, to keep the children safe from guns that may come in from outsiders? The metal detectors were designed to stop the young people who going to school from bringing their guns to school. And when they asked, the woman did it was an interview on CBS. I never forget the lady. She was interviewing the guy. He had his face knocked out. And she said, well, isn't it true that New York have one of the strictest mandatory gun laws? If you get caught with a gun, it's an automatic mandatory 1 year. This is about 10 years ago they did this interview. Aren't you worried about that? If you get caught with your gun, you automatically gonna get 1 year? You know what that young man said? He said, I'd rather be caught with a gun than to be caught without one. This is the attitude. So when you mentioned earlier that they're taking guns for safety reasons, everybody has a gun. How do we rid our community of illegal guns. And now they got these ghost guns. It is more hard to get rid of the illegal guns. Is the illegal guns the problem? Or is it the people that have the illegal guns the problem? We
Yes.
have to distinguish that.
No, I totally agree. And I think it has nothing to do with the gun. Why is it that young people feel a need to carry guns? Partly because they feel unsafe. And like you said, that low self-esteem, the lack of values, the lack of morals, the lack of a compass, right? A moral compass, and no caring adult. Not saying that people don't love them, but people now are so stressed. They have their own depression. They have their own financial crisis, financial insecurities, food insecurities, housing insecurities across the country. So you have youngsters that are living in fear every day just around the natural things that we deserve in life: food, clothing, and shelter. Then you compound other young people in the neighborhood that come across threatening, and they think they need a gun in order to protect themselves. So again, it's up to us as adults to again protect our young people, to take control of our communities, because all of the literature suggests that the one thing that is a violence prevention is healthy community and home environment. That is
Yeah.
the strategy. It sounds so pie in the sky, but you know what? It is as simple as that. It really is that simple. But it starts with us. You cannot just have children by any and everyone. You need to be, I know we want children for a variety of reasons because that's what we're here to do, procreate. But at the same time, not everyone you can create with, right? You said that earlier. You can't do everything with everyone. So we need to be a bit more intentional around mate selection, right? We need to be more intentional around timing. When should we have children? This is a mortgage. This is a commitment, a 20 to 30-year mortgage commitment. If not, you're going to lose it. Like, like you invest in a house. If you don't pay that mortgage and you don't invest in the upkeep, you're going to lose it. And your children they require an investment. Else we're losing them. We're losing them to the community. We're losing them to the streets. And everyone is walking in fear. The adults are in walking in fear. The children are in fear. I mean, like something has to give. And maybe it does start with the woman.
But you know what? You know what I thought while you was talking? Wonder if we, from now, 2022, rewind time and watch us walk backwards. Would it not take us to the point of origin where we can maybe find the beginning of it? Do you think that, Doc? Do you think that, Brother Graves? Do you think if we did that, will it take us to a point of origin? And if we do, I would like to ask you two brilliant human beings, where's the point of origin?
Like you say, you got to start from somewhere. And even when you ask that question, and even as like it's good. That's why they say we got what, 2 ears, 1 mouth. So even as I listen to both of y'all speak, and I'm able to listen, and some of the stuff that you sit back and think about when we start talking about the guns in the school and why people carrying guns into the school, and we talk about the point of Oregon, is I sit back and think about it when like I said, I was once the problem. Now I'm seeking to be part of the solution. I'm sitting back thinking about it when I was the problem, and when I was afraid in Thomas Jefferson High School, and I, used to take my step pop, them saying pistol, nickel plated 22, put it in my brief, and take it to school with me. And I remember that as clear as day. So it's like history have the tendency to repeat itself over and over again. And despite I never used that gun in school, I can remember when Mayor Dinkins, he was the mayor of New York City, and he went to that same high school that, I used to bring my gun there. And when he went there, 2 kids got killed. You know what I'm saying? Right then. And when that happened, they had to rush him out of there, get him out of there. And I can remember this guy doing a story about that in the New York Post and made mention of me bringing because once you start hearing and understanding my life, and what I'm just trying to say is how, like things go deeper than the religious surface, and how when you go back to that point or origin, like what made me think that I had to bring a gun to school for protection? What made me so afraid, so shaken that I'd rather be safe than sorry because I didn't want to be a victim. I didn't want to be bullied. So you figure if you got this jammy or you got this piece, you feeling like I can protect myself. Not that I went around just doing anything at that present time. No, I just had it for just in case.
Wow. You know, dear brother, most certainly, many people. Let me say this: in the Nation of Islam, we don't carry no weapons. About maybe 10 or so years ago, the minister made very clear to all of the Muslims in the Nation of Islam. He ordered weapons out of our homes. He said, if you have to carry a weapon, then you don't have to be with me. If we can't put our faith in the God, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, under him, we carried so much as a penknife. And you never seen nobody run up on the Nation of Islam, and we never had a weapon. I traveled, dear brother, around the world with the minister 3 times. I've been to Africa 3 times. And each one of those times, I was part of his security detail. We never carried a weapon. We never carried a weapon in America, and we never carried a weapon outside America. I remember when the detail was in Libya. At that time, the former late great Gaddafi, top security man, said to the minister, your men is over here. If they like to be armed, we will provide them with weapons. So the minister came and said to the security, he said, brothers, the government is willing to arm you while we're over here. Would you like to be armed? And we said, no, sir, brother minister. We don't carry no weapons in America. Why would we come over here carrying weapons? And you know what the minister said? You said the right answer, because if you said you wanted to carry arms, I would send it all you back to America. So we don't carry weapons. Because why? You know as well as I know, brother, the weapons give you a certain swag. We know that. We know that. We know that. And when you got that certain swag, you don't mind confrontation because you believe you got a weapon that can eliminate that confrontation.
Bring it on.
Things that you would normally not say, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Things you would act, you would not normally act, you act. And so when you don't have a weapon, you have a different attitude. Listen, I lived over in London, England for 1 year. I was blown out of my mind when I seen the police. They call them bubbies. These guys did not have a gun. All they had was a nightstick. And when you walk up on them, you couldn't find, this is the truth, a more polite police officer than that dude with only that nightstick. And he is forced to use people skills.
Yep. Verbal judo.
Oh yes, verbal judo. And I do believe that if you had lived in a community where everybody was on equal basis, nobody had a gun, we wouldn't talk crazy to each other. We would talk civilized to each other. And I do believe, because for over 45 years, I don't carry no weapons. The only ones in the nation can carry weapons is because their jobs require it. But I'm not saying I don't have the Louisville Slugger in the corner of my bedroom. You know what I'm saying? But I don't care. No comment. And you know what? I have not been in no confrontation. How can you get in confrontation with Captain D and I roll up on you with this smile on my face? I ain't gonna put no damn mean mug on you. You can pull your gun out. I ain't gonna say, no, wait a minute, brother. I said, come on, brother. Now you sure you want to pull that gun out on Captain D? Say,
I'm,
it's the way you talk
it's
to
the truth.
somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Because
how you talk to them.
I've worked in institutions and facilities with, people who have, severe mental illness who weren't necessarily taking or adhering to their medication. And let me tell you, it had a lot to do with how you were able to converse, how you were able to, use a certain level of emotional intelligence, right? And conversations and sort of de-escalation techniques and that kind of thing in order to help them kind of navigate through that process. It wasn't easy, but clearly you couldn't meet violence with violence. So if there,
That's right.
that was not the answer. And even if we called like, the police department to come and help intervene, they would come with as like almost like clinicians, like, and really, I was really impressed by some of the intervention and techniques that they would use. A lot of it was around de-escalation and trying to converse and using all sorts of, techniques that we know that will help to soothe people and calm them down. And, a lot of times we're just not using that anymore in our community. I don't know how much exercise we're doing in order to release certain frustration and that kind of thing. And so we do need to get back to, again, some of those basic things that you spoke about earlier, Glaze. Like, we need to get back to the basics. And those are things that we learn in the home. We learn how to manage our anger
That's
and our
right.
frustration through how our parents even discipline us when we do things that aren't necessarily good at home, right? Like, do they just start yelling and throwing things and, acting other than themselves? Or do they say, did you put that over there? Well, then you're going to go right over there and pick that up, aren't you? Like, and so they're not like, so it's clear in the nonverbal and verbal communication, you know what you need to do. I'm not going to raise my voice. And if I look over there in 5 seconds and it's not done, then we're going to have a different conversation. So like when we can't, like now we don't even look each other in the eyes anymore to even like communicate. Like everything is just off. Our whole equilibrium is off, and we
Yes,
really need
yes.
to figure out how to get back there. And I agree. I think there's things to be said. Again, I always say this about the hormones in the foods. I think there's something to be said about the
Yeah.
drugs that our children are exposed to. I do think that all of these fast food restaurants in our neighborhoods is not a good thing. Right? No one's cooking anymore. Having those conversations, like you said earlier, Glaze, around the table with your family, where your father just asks you, "How was your day today?" No, not one word answer. How was your day? What did you actually contribute to society today? What did you contribute positive? And I know growing up in a tough neighborhood like East New York, I had my dad, right? I had my dad. It wasn't easy, but we did have a dad for all of my childhood. So I know what a difference it makes. I have my grandfather, I have my grandparents, my mom. So all of those things make a difference. So why I decided never to use drugs? I don't even know what marijuana tastes like. I've never
Go ahead, girl.
smoked a cigarette, because I've never been influenced by things outside of my family structure. Like if my family said it was and I have plenty of people in my family who did drugs, but my parents, my mom did not have that. She didn't tolerate that in the house. And I just didn't see a need to follow other people. So people don't understand how much of an influence they have on their children. And in that case with the McDonald's situation, the mom called her son. Why did you call your son to come intervene in a situation that all you had to do was ask for a new order of French fries? Like I just it's just beyond me. And I know we can't just blame everything on mental illness. Maybe that was the way that she channeled her attention. Maybe that was the way that she used her son as someone who gave her a sense of, confidence and gave her a sense of purpose. And so, through him, she was in many ways having like a vicarious relationship with some man because it almost looks like or it mimics protection. in some way, you know? And it cost someone their life. And this wasn't the first murder the young man had committed and was involved in. And it's unfortunate, but I think there's a lot of basic training that we need to get back to, and we need to do it like now because we have lost like generations of young people, and you can't have a community that way.
Something that like even right now, I'm listening to everything, taking it in, and even right now, when you say you was in London for a whole year and you watch, as far as the police officers, no guns, no anything.
Mhm.
So, but I guess what I was curious about, how is their crime rate?
Oh, they had the crime rate was down. Matter
Mhm.
of fact, they had no gun crime rate, but they did have a high stabbing. Now, the knife was a weapon of choice. They didn't have the same problem we have with guns. They got with knives.
Okay.
But but one of the things, and it was definitely down. You don't have a high crime rate in London, England, and when I came back from the UK, it was clear to me that you can't police a community without guns. You have to have people skills though. And that's what these officers had. They was very kind and respectful. We did
Mhm.
a survey when I trained the Detroit Police Department. And we did a survey where we asked the police, rate these top 6 issues and put them in the right order that you think is important to the community. And the 6 issues was getting guns off the street, talking to them with respect, um, uh, solving homicides, turning in corrupt cops, dealing with drug and alcohol abuse. And I try to put it and ask the police, what do you think would be the number one concern with the black community? The police officers put, I think the black community number one concern is getting drugs and guns off the street and locking up, and one of them was locking up the bad guy. And I said, no. Do you know what number one is from the community? Is the police treating them with respect. Now it blew the police mind. Wow. How's that number one? Ain't they happy about it? Because and one of them was a more police presence in the black community. So the second thing they thought would be more police presence in the black community. The second thing in the black community was solving homicide. Now, wait a minute. Now, the police is kind of confused. The number one thing that these people in the black community are concerned about how we talk to them, the number one is solving homicide. I thought the number one was a police presence. But what the police don't understand, this is what they don't understand. We don't want a police presence in a community where illegal activity is constantly taking place. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Would you want police presence you selling dope? Would you want police presence, man, if you breaking and entering things? Would you want police presence if you selling other people's pond and you cutting off people underneath their car? What you call them? Cadillac converters. Would you want police? No. They don't understand. Black people don't want a police presence because our community is full of illegal activities. Now, the police couldn't figure that out. But when we asked the community, what was number one did we want from them, the police, what we think that they want from them, it was totally out. Did you know they did not have turning in corrupt cops as a priority, but it was number 3 for the black community? We asked the police, we're turning in the corrupt cops. Well, we say that's number 5. They believe number 5 is to them way down the toll pole, turning in corrupt. But that's number 2, number 3 with the black community, turning in corrupt cops. What is my point? When you look at them versus us, and I wanted to go back to the beginning or the point of origin. The point of origin is the home. If we was to go back when I was a child, I came out of a family of 12 brothers and sisters. All right. My dad was in our life all the way up till God took him. He was not the kind of father that abandoned my mother with all those children. Now, I'm not going to say Pops didn't have another lady on the other side of town, but you know what? My mama knew it. I didn't even know my mama knew who the other woman was. Matter of fact, this is how I found out. My mother told me one day, go down to Miss Pearlie and get your daddy. Now, on the weekend, my mama didn't mind him going down to be with his other woman, as long as he left that paycheck. Long as he left that paycheck at home. Soon as he got off work, she gave him just enough money to go down there and be with his mistress. I didn't know that was his mistress. I went down there, how you doing, Miss Pearlie? My daddy over here? Said, yeah, he over there. Hey, Dad, Mama said you need to come home now. I did not know that, but my mama knew. But my mama, I guess my mama said, you done gave me 12, that's enough. Now you go get somebody else. I'm through with all that. Just make sure you take care of what you got. Now look at what men learn from their fathers, how to be a man. And this is why I say it starts back in the home. And you know as well as I know, we had to be home. Now we didn't have no phones. We didn't have no way to communicate. If we want to know what time to get home, how do we know what time it was to go home?
How did we
Street
know?
lights.
Oh yeah, the
The
street
street
light.
lights.
Yeah. As far as
The,
daylight saving time, yeah, you know.
the street lights was the universal time all around in black neighborhoods around the country. If you want to know what time it was to be home, let that street light come on. You ain't even have to have a watch. All right, everybody. Time to go home.
Well, but for the modern woman that is on this particular podcast, what I hear you saying, there was a level of respect for the man that was recognized by his children that created a certain amount of protection and honor and a certain like morals and values in the home that was created just simply by how your mom treated your dad and
That's
how
right.
your dad sort of cared for his family. That's what I hear you saying, and like it feels like something like that is missing in our community. I don't necessarily know if women have the same respect or even think men are deserving of that level of I don't know, time or
It's not,
commitment
Dr.
or
Lee, it's not
treatment.
easy. It's not easy, Dr. Lee, living in a
Right.
society where women have been so
Working hard,
disappointed.
women work as hard as men
There you
now and
go.
all that
That's
kind of
right.
stuff. You know,
That's
back in
right.
the days, no, women didn't
That's
work.
right. That's
They didn't
right.
have rights and things like
That's
that.
right.
So it was like a job to care for your partner.
And my father, he took care of my mother. She never had. I never seen my mother work. And because he had his own business, he had a work ethic that was unbelievable. But he never ran from his responsibility. So today's women, now that would be controversial. That would be a big conversation with Captain D. Well, I ain't feeding no niggas first. My baby's going. I understand. That's the mindset. Why? Because you have not met a real man yet. You have not met a man that has been able to provide for you all of the luxuries of life that is afforded to you as a woman. When you can find a man. Now listen, I'm telling you truthfully, I'm not bragging. This is the God's truth. They got a video of me doing a barbershop some years ago in Philadelphia. It gone viral. And I'm sitting in the chair. I didn't know it went viral. And I told everybody, the brothers in the barbershop, I told them, I'm the man of my house. This is the truth. I cannot lie. My wife don't pay no bills. She don't even have to go to the post office because ain't nothing in her name. I make sure this is the God's truth. I can't lie. I pay the cost to be the boss. I take care of everything. And she works. And you know what she do with a little check? Go get your nails done, baby. Go get your hair done, baby. Do what you want to do with it. I got this. And in return, you know what I get? I don't come home and smell no Clorox. I don't smell no Clorox. I don't come home and my clothes is stacked high because they ain't been washed. I can smell the bean soup coming in the driveway. I can smell the fried chicken 2 miles away. When I come home, it's a clean house. My clothes are folded, put in my drawer. I have a house of peace. That's what I get in return. I pay the cost to be the boss. That ain't for every man. That ain't for every man, but that's me. It works for me. And listen, as long as I take care of my responsibility, she gonna show me some love. She gonna show me some love. And I think when we get to that part, when men can begin to get back, we lose, Brother Glaze. We give up our moral authority when we send our women down there to get Section 8. We give up our moral authority when we send her down to get food stamps. We give up our moral authority when we tell her to get public assistance, all because that's a convenience that we don't have to worry about. But when you do get Section 8, guess what? You can't have your name. You can't even be in the house. You can't have your name on the lease. You can't have a bill in your name. So you really nobody. So you living there, you paying the food, and as soon as y'all get into an argument, she called the police. She tell the police, put him out. He said, but I live here. He said, well, can you show me a bill or something? I'm sure if you live, you got a bill in your name there. Well, I ain't got a bill with your name on the lease. No, my name ain't on the lease. But look at all these clothes in the closet. I see the clothes in the closet. But can you prove you live here? He can't. He got to go. We give up our moral authority by allowing us to let the white man take care of authority. I will never give up my moral authority to let somebody take care of my family and then call the shots how I must live in my own household. I'm sorry. I'm just not that kind of dude.
Hey, listen, you listen to that, and right now it's like, to me, great segment. Thank you very much for your time. We got to continue to join forces, build together, saying so many different topics, and there's so many things we could discuss tonight, but we'll be here forever. But what I'm looking at is right now continue, like, right now how we started, shout out to Captain Dennis Muhammad. Right now is, like I told you, what we brought him on the platform to talk about: murder, mayhem, and mercy. What will save our youth? And basically right now is anybody that's out there, because I got a lot of information, like people want to reach out to you. So how can they reach you? How can they reach, I'm saying, Captain Dennis Muhammad? How can they touch base with you?
Here's what y'all can do. Go on my website. It's the Peacekeepers.
Okay, hold up.
Peacekeepers.org. Hit it, you'll see my website come up.
Okay, it's the
Once you see that website, has information, everything with an S, Peacekeepers.
Okay, with the S. Okay, Peacekeepers.
One word together. That's it. .org.
Okay, thepeacekeeper.org, right?
Right.
Okay. So, folks, listen. I'm going ahead and put this up. That's the right one. Let me know.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
So, and that's what it's all about. It's like right now is because, once again, when you sit back and you look at it, and you'd be surprised who's out there, listen to us, who's out there taking the time to share, and that's what it is. That's what I love about the technology, because you can copy and paste, and you can send a message to any and everybody that you feel that this message would impact their life. Because once again, I was the problem. And to me, like right now, to join forces with Dr. Elise and join forces with you, trying to find or be a part of that solution, to me is huge. Because anybody can, guess what? Talk that talk. But how many people are going to be able to walk that walk? And to me, it's like your action. You know what I'm saying? That's what people go by, is your action and being people of our word. And like, to me, like I say right now, like, hey, my hat's off to you. I love what you bring. I love what you're doing. Even right now, for my conversation, like right now, is I just got a new brother. I just got a new big brother.
That's right. That's right.
I just got a new big brother. You know.
Brother, we thank you so much. I'm so honored to have this great opportunity. I know this is not the last time, of course, because we got so much more territory to cover. But I want to thank my beautiful niece with her beautiful self, Dr. Lease. You know, you have a great destiny, Dr. Lease. God is not through with you, girl. You are coming into a new level of growth and development. And by the grace of God, we're going to help you to begin to take all of the knowledge that God has let you to learn to apply it to heal our sick folk. We got to get you more out there, involved in institutions of change that would help us to deal with the trauma that we're facing. You play a key role, and I'm so glad to be on this beautiful platform with my brother. God has blessed you, dear brother, to have won the hearts of the people because they know that you're not a man who not mean what he say, but say what he mean. And brother, we thank you so much for honoring me to come on in this Friday. And you know what Friday means? It's the weekend. And I want to say this to everybody. You know, may God bless you all with a peaceful and safe weekend. But which very important, be very careful and watch out for sister and brother food. Keep an eye on them. There's a lot of foolish people out there, and do not engage into conversation that may be hostile and may lead to violence. Walk away. Walk away. That's all you got to do. If somebody challenges you aggressively, wish them peace and walk away. And if they put their hands on you, then you know what you need to do. Call on the God and get busy. But with all of that, walk away and wish people peace. I thank you so much, family, for giving me this great opportunity. And to your listening, wonderful listening audience, it's just good conversations. And I hope the next time you invite me, we will get to some real tangible solutions. You know, this was a nice little icebreaker. They get to know me, I get to know them, I get to know y'all. So I mean, hey, if you have me back, I'll be honored to come back.
You'll be
It's
back.
y'all's invite.
Hey, you definitely will be back. You know, like, hey, look, we gonna make it happen. Even like I say, me. Hey, look, like trust me, you're gonna be back. We got plenty of things to talk about. We just beginning. We just beginning.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I think we did
That-
come up with some solutions. I think we did. It starts in the home. It starts with the individual parent, with the child. It starts with connecting a child with a caring adult. It starts with open and honest communication and conversation. It starts with bringing back a certain level of morals and values into your home and community. And it also starts most of all with love. Everything starts with love. And I think
And,
with that,
and like you say, with a
anything is
weapon,
possible.
and like you say, with a weapon is only a forced sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a forced sense of security because once again, because you got that weapon now, because he say good morning or she say good morning to you in the wrong way because you got that weapon. Hey, I don't like the way you say good morning to me. Wait a minute.
That's right. That's right.
See, if you don't have that weapon, then guess what? Oh, I'm not paying no mind. But sometimes when you get that forced sense of security, you waiting for somebody to look at you wrong. You know, and that's what we have to do. How can I love thy neighbor? How can I love thy brother and thy sister if I don't love thyself?
Hello. If I don't love myself. Oh, that's a good topic next week. Whenever you want me on, we got to try that one there. The lack of love of self and kind.
Right. So she talk about all the time, you know, self-love, self-care. You know, she coming over here look like $1 million, you know. Everybody come on my platform to watch the doc. They come up to see Dr. Lease.
Yeah, okay. No, they love your murder and mayhem stories. Trust me. They love it. They love all those old stories. But if that's the way that you can get through and people will listen and that we can get people to change and to start to change their mindset and think differently about crime and hurt and pain, then hey.
And you know what? Like I told you earlier, I was in the supermarket before I got here, and somebody approached me in the supermarket. Hey, you Brian Glaze Gibbs? And I'm like, and you know what? Like I'm
That's
so
really interesting because you live in the woods.
yeah. Wow, wow. Hey, but you know the thing about that or whatever is like this. I don't even get caught up into that. And even right now, something the brother was saying is, he said, "Yo, man, you got a powerful message. You got to." He said, "We listening." And see, that means so much to anything. A lot of times you can't tell because you look at it whether a piece moves the needles. Sometimes the most powerful piece don't even move the needles. It's like the ridiculous story move the needles. So when you come and you give them love, you giving them transparency. You giving them, like I'm saying right now, is passion. You giving them respect. See, if we was up here yelling, screaming, cursing each other out, and oh man, it's like the housewife of Atlanta, loving hip hop. And
I would be the housewife.
if we was over here pulling out each other here and fighting and jumping at each other, then everybody be like, woo, wow, woo. Because once again, drama. We are brainwashed by drama. We are brainwashed by negativity and nonsense. And to me, it drives me crazy. Don't get me wrong. I can go there. But something that you say, Captain, I'm at peace. The world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. I'm at peace. And I love that peace. I don't have to look over my back. I don't have to, I'm not worrying about nothing. I'm at peace. And I love that. So they can say that drama for their mama.
Not the
That
mama.
man's a poet.
Not the
That
mama.
man's a poet. He's a poet and don't know it.
No, man. No. Hey, you know what? Like you say, getting me on that conscious. What you was talking about earlier, that the platform you putting together that you got.
Oh yeah,
for the
yeah.
conscious rap?
Records, clean cut records. Yeah, man.
Clean cut
We call
records.
it here clean cut records. We talk about the hereafter music. That's a new kind of music that we bringing into existence where we can roll down the street with our grandbabies, man. Music that would allow us not only be inspired, but music that would lift us up to where we're going to go and where we at. It ain't gonna be no depressing music. We don't have to tell the old stories how we got there. We're gonna tell the new stories of where we're going. That's the new music today. Not where we come from, but doggone it, where we going.
So I want to be a poet on that. I want to come out there like I want to be a poet for that.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank y'all for joining us. Right now is, tune in next Friday, same time. And like I tell you right now is, you know what? Guess what? See, this is the people platform. And whatever y'all want to hear, whatever y'all want, I'm saying, Captain Dennis Muhammad back, guess what? Like right now, and the difference is right now, as long as we got the time, we don't just have to just limit it to Friday. It's like right now, as long as we get the time, we can go live. Especially right now, if it fit our schedule. All right. Once again, like I say, thank everybody for joining us. Captain, I'm gonna let you have the closing. I'm gonna let you and the doctor have the closing words. So
let me say this to everyone. We may not be any one of us what we should be. But I can also say about myself, and I know you can say the same thing, and I know definitely Brother Glaze can say it, but thank God we're not what we used to be. But don't dismiss us, because God's not finished with us yet. That's for all of y'all. God bless you. Keep your family safe and pray for your family and pray for yourself. And make sure that you don't become the problem. Keep yourself in the solution line. Thank you. Peace. My name is Captain Dennis, and guess what? I'm present for peace.